on. The stream seems to be live. At about 2,700 kilobits. Seems good enough for me. Let's go. Hello! Shadowcat back with more Pokemon. Yes, it's time for this again because we didn't finish what we were doing last week because I spent too much time talking about these things instead of writing things down. So we're still doing the same typing and training that we were last time, just, you know, more of it. Dan, who knows? Maybe other things. We'll get into it. So, before we get into that, first things first, I know JP's not here, but I got to do the plug anyway, because I actually remembered to. I'm actually on top of things today. Started on time, gonna get the plug in first thing. I'm getting better at this. So, subscribe to the channel if you like the kind of things that I do here. If you're into Pokemon, you know, that kind of stuff. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into Pokemon or tabletop gaming, like Pathfinder, Starfinder, things like that, then share this video with them, because they might like it. And give things, you know, that people like to them, because that makes people happy. You know, that kind of thing. Otherwise, though, if you just like me, like what I'm doing here, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. But if you're going to go ahead and make a comment down below, might I make a suggestion? There is a link somewhere down there in the description for a Discord server. You can join it. All you gotta do is click it. Link works. Join the Discord, then come to the Behind the Screens channel. Do that, and you can tell me what games you're interested in playing in, because I have several modules already lined up. Let me know what you want to play, and as soon as I have enough people for it, let me know your availability too. Once I have enough people, we'll start that game. I am always looking to start new games. They're fun. Anyway, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into this. I see that I already have people in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you here this morning. I also see Alden in the chat. Hello, Alden. I have so many comments to get back to you on still. That's for later. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten you. It's just been busy. Okay. So, to do this, we're going to need to get our browser back. We're going to need our spreadsheet because we're going to get all of our information back. There's that, and there's our spreadsheet. We're going to go over everything. Alright, so before we get into all the rest of the numbers and finish this out, let's go over what we've done so far, because we are almost done with the typings. It's been a little bit of a trying to figure some of these out because, like, for example, normal, I have no idea what to do with normal types. Doubling the number of learned skills that they have right now is just a placeholder, which may end up being the permanent placeholder if I don't find anything to replace it with. I just don't know what else to do with normal types. I mean, generally speaking, in every Pokemon game, normal types are like the first thing that you come across. Outside of your starter, obviously. I mean, your starter in all the games is always either grass, fire, or water. But the first Pokemon that you actually come across once you actually leave your starting town is always a normal type. In the first generation, I believe it was a Rattata. I think. Pretty sure Rattata is a normal type. And the only others I know would be Gen 5, I think, and Gen 9. Gen 5, I believe, being Diamond Pearl, because that would have been a Bidoof. And in Scarlet Violet, it would have been Lechonk. All of them are normal types, like the first thing that you always find. And it's not to say that they're the only ones, there's a lot of them. It's just I don't know what to do with them. Alden says, but Pidgey is normal flying. I think before they did dual typing, Pidgey was just flying. I think being normal flying came later. I could be wrong on that, though. I could be wrong. So yeah, I still don't know what to do with normal types. Fighting types are going to get the feat improved critical, which I think is fitting. It means that instead of a 1 in 20 chance of getting a critical hit, they'll crit on a 1920, so it's a 1 in 10 chance. It seems to fit for them. I like it. It feels good to me. I would like to go with that. I think more crits for fighting types works. Flying, they get a fly speed, obviously. Poison, they're just immune to the poison condition, which I think is a little bit lame. At the same time, though, I can't give them poison on every attack because that would be insanely overpowered. So I may give them a slight bonus on poison moves. I haven't thought about that yet. It'll take, or I'll have to cover that when we get into the actual moves and what they do. Because when we do moves, it's not just going to be about how do we assess like damage and power and things like that. It's also going to be how do we assess all of those secondary conditions. Fire moves can inflict burn. Ice can inflict freeze. Electric can inflict paralyze. Things of that nature. Poison moves, many of them, not all of them, but many inflict poison. And so we may have to get back to, do poison types get a bonus to that? It may make it harder for them to resist. PC Unicorn's in the chat. Hello, PCU. It's good to see you. Ground types are going to get a burrow speed, which I think is great. I think it fits. Not every ground type is a Diglett, but if every ground type can burrow, I think that's fine. And besides that, Dig is a move. Dig is primarily a ground move. Okay, Dig is a ground move. It's primarily on ground type Pokemon. So that makes sense. Rock, damage reduction at 1 for every 5 levels. This one, I was actually sitting there and thinking about it, and I thought to myself, damage reduction at level 5. This is going to make rock types, I think, overpowered. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because on one level, I kind of like them being overpowered. See, here's the thing. Rock and Steel are both getting the same thing, just in different ways. So Steel is getting a bonus to their armor class for 1 for every 5 levels. That is going to make them harder to actually hurt. With Rock, every single time they get hit, they get to shave damage off. Which means that rock types are essentially going to become immune to damage at a certain point. The example that I gave is when we look at equipment. Daggers are a 1d4, short swords are a 1d6, long swords are a 1d8. Crap, what's a 1d10? Oh, no, I don't remember. I think a 1d10 is a flail? Hold on, I gotta check this now, otherwise it's gonna bother me. Otherwise it's gonna bother me. Equipment. I know that 1d12 is a battle axe. 1d10. Martial weapons. I don't want light. Here we go. One-handed martial weapons. I'm looking for a 1d10. And it's not in here. Weird. I thought it would be. Well, let's go to two-handed. There we go. Two-handed. The Earthbreaker, which is a Warhammer. Oh, that's for a small, actually. 1d10. The Bardiche and the Becta Corbin both do 1d10 damage. Actually, there's a lot that do 1d10. Glaives, the Glaive Gurasam, Great Club, they all do 1d10s. Halberds. Okay, so yeah. 1d10s, and then obviously the Great Axe is 1d12. Like, if you're looking for the single biggest die that you're going to get in a weapon, that's it. After that, you start rolling double dice. Which, don't get me wrong, is fun. Everybody likes rolling lots of dice. But eventually, your rock types are just going to simply become immune to it. That dagger, well, it only does 1d4 damage, plus strength, admittedly. But as soon as a rock type hits level 4, or level 20, 20 divided by 5, is DR4, basically immune to daggers. And then so on and so forth. At level 30, immune to short swords. Level 40, immune to long swords. It's gonna be a lot. Rock types are gonna be the kind of things where once it gets going, you can't stop it. I think it's gonna be overpowered, but I kinda like that it is. It's not to say that they're going to be unstoppable. When we get into moves and such, most damages, if there's a weakness involved, are ×2. And so, yeah, your rock type is going to have a damage reduction because it's a rock type. But if you do 80 points of damage to it because you used Hydro Pump, it's not going to be that damage reduction doesn't really count for much anymore. Anyway, bug types. We kind of agonized on this one. The best that I could do for them, because there's not a whole lot that's special about them, was give them the spell Spider Climb. It's not perfect. The best I could do was just give them that and increase their speed. Why? Because bugs can crawl on everything. They can crawl on walls, they can crawl on ceiling, they can crawl on wood, they can crawl on glass. It makes sense. And it was mentioned that, well, what if it's a bug flying type? Because there's lots of bug flying types. The fact is, they get a climb speed and a fly speed. I don't make the rules. Actually, that's a lie. I do make the rules, but that's how they are. Ghosts are going to get concealment, which means that there is going to be a chance for them to just ignore any attack coming through, which makes sense. It's a ghost type. Steel, as I mentioned before, is going to get increased armor class, which is going to make them harder to hit. They're still going to take full, unlike the rock types. If you manage to damage a steel type, that steel type will take the full damage from your attack. The problem with steel types is that it's going to be much, much harder to actually hurt them. I mean, it's literally going to be a case of you can sit there and plink on them all day long, and they just don't care. Which I think is fitting for a steel type. Can you imagine, in a world of guns, where a Steelix comes up, and you've got this giant onyx-looking snake thing, except it's made out of steel plates, or just like solid steel, I'm not even sure. Wait, if it's made of solid steel, does that make it a solid snake? I cannot have been the first one to make that joke. Anyway, just imagine that you have this giant Steelix coming through, and you're like, well, we have to get out of town, so you pull out guns and start shooting at it, and everything just plinks off of it. That's when you got to go for the anime style weak spot, like PC Unicorn said. Oh, and Blizzstar says, and Pikachu uses an electric move after a sprinkler system goes off. Oh ho ho, oh. Trust me, we'll get into that. Actually, we don't really need to get into that because, interestingly, it's kind of already done for us. Hold that thought for just a second. Because I'm going to come here and we're going to go into spells. Druid spells, actually, which is not somewhere that we usually go. But druids have spells. And druids have a lot of really, really interesting spells. And one of them happens to be... but I don't know where it is. Call animal, no. Spirit call, no. Stone call, call lightning, that's what I wanted. Call lightning. So, I believe, if I remember correctly, immediately upon the completion of the spell, once per round thereafter, and by the way, the casting time is 1 full round, but it lasts for 1 minute per level. There are 10 rounds in a minute. This is a level 3 druid spell, which means you're going to be like level 7 or something once you get it. So we're talking about a storm that lasts for 7 minutes. Once per round, for 7 rounds, 10 rounds a minute, is 70 lightning strikes. You can call down a 5-foot wide, 30-foot long vertical bolt of lightning that deals 3d6 points of electrical damage. The bolt flashes down a vertical stroke. Let's see. You need not call it immediately. Aha, here we go. If you are outdoors and in a stormy area, a rain shower, clouds, wind, hot, hazy conditions, even tornadoes, each bolt then does 3d10 damage. It functions indoors or underground, but not underwater. Okay, I thought that it had mention in here of if you were in a wet area, but apparently it doesn't. But anyway, that is one of those things that I, as the GM, can actually can rule on just in the moment. Like, you mentioned a sprinkler system. If you are in a sprinkler system, or rather, if you're standing in like an entire room that is wet because of a sprinkler system, if somebody uses an attack move that is electrical in nature, depending on what it is, I can absolutely rule that everybody's in danger. I mean, one of the things that I could do was is to simply ring it and use the rule of halves, which would be that I can take the range of the attack and just simply use that as range increments, and at every increment simply have the damage. Which, when we're talking about some of your higher level moves like Thunder, that could be significant. But I don't even know how I'm going to be doing ranges yet. So that may have to wait until later. Because range is going to be really difficult because range is not something that is covered in the games. You are always, air quotes, in range when you're playing the games. It's abstracted. We're going to have to give that a concrete number. Alden saying that water moves inflicting a wet debuff could be interesting. I agree. And for the most part, we actually already have stuff for that. There is no status condition in here called wet. If I come to game mastering and look at conditions, I have a lot of conditions. We have bleeding, blinded, broken, dazed, dying, flat-footed, helpless, invisible, paralyzed, petrified, shaken, sinking, unconscious, asleep, drowsy, necrosis. We have a lot of them, but wet is not one of them. Again, it's one of those things that doesn't generally come up. Mostly because it's something that everyone can kind of deal with. But let me look at a spell here. We're going to go back to the wizard spell list, because this might be helpful for us. There is a spell called Shocking Grasp, and it is exactly what you think it is. You sheathe your hand in lightning, and then you grab someone, or something. Now, Shocking Grasp has a couple of modifiers to it. It says, when you successfully make a melee touch attack, it does 1d6 points of electrical damage per caster level to a maximum of 5d6. When delivering the jolt, you get a +3 bonus on attack rolls if the opponent is wearing metal armor, or is carrying a metal weapon, or is made of metal. Now, interestingly, that's for metal, and obviously that's because metal conducts electricity well. Water does not actually conduct electricity well, although it does conduct electricity. We could give something similar to that. If water moves inflicted a wet condition, we could give them a bonus on getting hit by electrical attacks. And we can flavor that however we want. We can give it maybe a +1 or a +2 on attack rolls. And we can say that it's because you're wet and therefore you're more conductive. We can also say it's because you're wet and you find it harder to move. Either way, we could give it a bonus. Let's see. PC Unicorn also says there's also an ultimate move. Just pull out Slugma. Everything within a huge area catches fire. Okay, I don't know what that is. Hold on, I gotta look it up now. Slugma. Oh, wait a minute, I know what that thing is. I've seen that before. Let's see. Introduced in Generation 2, evolves into Magcargo at level 38. Biology. It is a limbless gastropod mollusk Pokemon comprised of magma. Its body is bright red, fading to a duller red along its extremities. It has a large, round yellow eyes and pupils. The head is ovoid. Reading. The circulatory system is composed entirely of magma, which delivers vital nutrients and oxygen to its organs. To prevent its body from cooling and hardening, it neither sleeps nor ever stops moving. If its body begins to cool, it will become brittle and may break apart. It constantly seeks warm places and gathers with other members of its species in mountains and volcanoes. It takes magma baths to heal itself. It is believed that when volcanoes were more active in ancient times, Slugma were seen more often. Huh. Okay. And, alright, so you mentioned Magcargo. Let's read. It's a mollusk. Yes, it is. Magcargo's internal body temperature can reach over 18,000 Fahrenheit, or 10,000 degrees Celsius, causing it to evaporate water on contact. Flames circulate throughout its body, occasionally spouting through cracks in its shell. While the shell is brittle enough to be shattered with a slight touch, it can reform its body by dipping itself in magma. Okay, so I see where you're coming from. Like, 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is way past the flashpoint of everything. Pretty sure it's past the flashpoint of concrete. And to be fair, there are some things that we're going to have to kind of hand wave. And we can hand wave a few of these things in different ways. We can simply hand wave them and say it's hyperbole. It's not actually 18,000 degrees. It's just really, really hot. It also says that it evaporates water on contact, which, 18,000 degrees would evaporate water by vicinity. But it's also a fire type, and a rock type, which I believe makes it 4 times weak to water attacks. So clearly it's not evaporating the water before it gets hit. There are some things that we'll have to hand wave. Is it hot? Yes. But is it hot enough that it's going to cook you as soon as you toss it out of the Pokeball? No, it's not. We just have to assume that whoever was writing the Pokedex was very... They probably just said, oh yeah, it's super hot. It's like a billion degrees hot. So we'll take it as the Pokedex was written by a 5-year-old. And then we'll move on from there. Still though, I mean, remember when we're going to get back to our types here. We did Steel, Fire types. Fire, Electric, and Water, or Ice, rather. We said that we're going to change all of their melee and ranged attacks to Fire, Electric, and Cold damage, respectively. And Magcargo here being a Fire type and dealing Fire damage if it so much as touches you. I mean, again, the rules, they kind of work themselves out. Alright, so yeah, Fire, we just covered that. Water types are going to get a swim speed because it just makes sense. I mean, have you seen Vaporeon? Looks like a dog and a dolphin. Okay, Electric, Ice, we said that those are going to deal damage, but now we get into the actual types that we still need to finish. We still need Grass, Psychic, Dragon, Dark, and Fairy. And I don't know what to do with them yet. Grass kinda seems a little bit easy, but at the same time, I'm not sure. See, here's the thing with grass types. Grass types, my knee-jerk reaction, like what I would like to do, is to give them a natural regeneration, which is to say, give them fast healing. So that every single round that they get fast healing, they will simply recover hit points. And I could do it at the same level that steel types and rock types. So if I gave them fast healing 1 for every 5 levels, that means that when your grass type, your Bulbasaur, turns level 5, every single round they get 1 hit point back. And that's fine, that's cool. At the same time, though, the problem is that already exists. So, I believe they're called abilities. Right, abilities, hidden abilities, inherent abilities. Hidden ability? I'm not sure where it is. And yes, Alden's got it because of chlorophyll, and that's what I was looking for, is I was trying to find my way to chlorophyll. But chlorophyll is just an ability that grass types have, not all of them, but most of them I think have it, where if you use the move Sunny Day, they automatically regain hit points every turn. And so, what am I gonna do? I could give them fast healing, and then do they get chlorophyll on top of that? Or do I give them something different? Alden said that the grass's main gimmick in Pokemon is immunity to powder and spore effects. And maybe that's true. Let's take a look. Type. Grass types. Let's see what it says here. Battle properties. They are good versus ground, rock, and water. Not good versus flying, poison, bug, fire, grass, dragon, and steel. Defensive properties. They are weak to flying, poison, bug, fire, ice. Additional effects. Grass-type Pokemon are immune to Leech Seed. Starting in Generation 6, grass types are immune to powder and spore moves, and the effect spore. Now see, I did not know that one. I really did not know that one. I should have been using my my grass types more then. Actually, my partner was a grass type. What am I talking about? I already use grass types all the time. Grass-type Pokemon are the only Pokemon that are affected by these stat-raising moves like Rototiller and Flower Shield, introduced in Gen 6. The Forester's Curse, introduced in Gen 6, adds the grass type to the target's types. And when grassy terrain is in effect, the power of grass-type moves is increased by 30%. 50% prior, if the user is grounded. Okay. Alden says that chlorophyll just doubles their speed. If that's what it is, if chlorophyll doubles their speed, actually, then this still works. Okay. Do you have chlorophyll? Overgrow and Leaf Guard. No, you don't. Who has it? I'm just gonna start picking some here and see if I can find somebody who's got it. You have Levitate. Actually, screw it. I'm just gonna search for it. Chlorophyll. Okay, so, in Beck, the effect of harsh sunlight, the speed stat of a Pokemon with this ability is doubled. Okay, no, you're absolutely right. It doubles their speed. No, this is great, this is great, this is good. So, Chlorophyll, if they have the ability, doubles their speed. Which is great. I think it's great. Because speed is basically directly tied to their size anyway, and so Venusaur is going to be a chunky boy. Actually, no, he's not. He's really not. Venusaur. For all of the muster and bluster and everything, Venusaur is a grand total of 2 meters tall. And weighs 100 kilograms. Solidly medium size. So Venusaur will naturally have a speed of like 30. And yes, Venusaur also has chlorophyll. However, that means that if Venusaur has a speed of 30, which is great, with chlorophyll, that could go up to 60. I mean, could you imagine, could you imagine, this Venusaur just walking towards you at 6 miles an hour? And then, think about this. So running is up to 4 times speed, 5 times, I think, if you have the actual run feet. But normally it's 4 times. So that means that 3 times 4 would be 12, so 120 feet, or roughly 12 miles an hour, briefly, because it's like full sprint. So briefly running 12 miles per hour, but if Venusaur has chlorophyll and harsh sunlight is active, could you imagine a Venusaur charging at you at 24 miles an hour? A Venusaur in bright sunlight could get a ticket in a school zone. Try sleeping now. Okay, so this is good. I don't need to change chlorophyll at all. Not only do I not need to change chlorophyll at all, but it's also not going to affect anything else. Chlorophyll will double their speed. Not their move speed, but just like their speed in general. It's not going to affect their initiative, unless it did. But you only roll initiative once. And let's see, Blizzard Star says that would be scary because in the anime Venusaur doesn't move. Venusaur has legs. Okay? I'm looking at them. They're there. Look. He's got little toe claws. Venusaur has legs, which means that Venusaur can move. It's just a question of how fast. And I would add, saying that Venusaur doesn't move would be like saying that alligators don't move. Because alligators just sit there like a log. Literally, they get mistaken for logs. But look at how explosively fast a great big crocodile can be. Okay? Venusaur? Right there? He be your land crocodile. Alden says, is this going to be the base ability for all grass types? No. I was talking about chlorophyll. That chlorophyll could increase speed. If the Pokemon comes with chlorophyll, then sure. For example, Venusaur here says it has Overgrow and chlorophyll. And so when we're picking Pokemon, that's what they're going to get. Now, as far as abilities go, I don't know how we're going to do it yet. We haven't even really covered abilities. I don't know if we want to cover abilities because I don't even know how many abilities there are. Let's see. Overgrow. Generation 5 and onward. Instead of boosting grass-type moves' power, Overgrow now technically boosts a Pokemon's attack or special attacks by 50% during the damage calculation if a grass-type move is being used, resulting in effectively the same effect. Okay, so it just makes their grass-type powers better. I guess it basically makes stab better? I don't know, we'll have to go into stab. Because, weirdly, not every move gets stab. And if you're not familiar, stab is an acronym for same type attack bonus. So if you are a grass type using a grass move, you get stab. Sometimes. It's weird. Like, if I come down here and look at these... Bold indicates that it gets stabbed when used. Let's see. Petal Dance gets it. Vine Whip gets it. Petal Blizzard gets it. Leech Seed does not get stab. Razor Leaf gets stab. Sleep Powder does not. Seed Bomb does. Actually, no, I think I see the difference. I think that stab only applies if it has a power value to it. Because the rest of these have no power. Okay, that actually makes more sense. Alright, no, never mind. Stab does apply to every single attack move. Just not the utility moves. And Alden says there are currently a total of 310 Pokemon abilities. Oh, screw that. We are not going into all of those. We are not doing all 310 abilities. No, 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 no. It's one of those things where I will try to kind of abstract things. Like, if I can just say that, like grassy terrain. Grassy terrain just simply ups the, well, that's a move, actually. That's not exactly the same. I don't know. We'll take a look at it, but I'm not doing 310 abilities. I will try to simplify that as much as possible. Okay. Anyway, so this is great. Chlorophyll means that in harsh sunlight, which it does explicitly state harsh sunlight, which means that if you just have your Venusaur out during the daytime, it's not going to happen. There has to be some kind of special thing like using the move Sunny Day. Now, does Sunny Day also give everybody a sunburn? Maybe. I don't know. If it's regarded as harsh sunlight, I hope you're wearing some kind of SPF, because otherwise you're getting burned. PC Unicorn says, insert Nom flashbacks to the Magic the Gathering module. Okay, in my defense, I had to. I know, we spent 13 episodes going through all of the keyword abilities, and now I think with the new release, there's more, because now I would have to use, I think the new ability is Station. I would need to actually write out rules for Station. So, since Magic the Gathering is one of the things in constant development, so must my module be in constant development. Such is life. Anyway, since Chlorophyll is going to double speed, and Grassy Terrain is going to increase their attack power, that means that not every Grass-type Pokemon is going to get Chlorophyll. But I can give every single Grass-type Pokemon a regeneration, because that's not covered by anything yet. I don't think, anyway. Unless, I'm gonna look at this. It might be simply an effect of Sunny Day. But if that's true, then we're just talking about a healing move here. In which case, it's fine. It's in addition to. Effect. Generations 2, 3, 4... I want to go all the way up to 9. Sunny Day can no longer override weather in the overworld. Never mind. 5 to 8. Growth now raises the user's attack and special attack by 2 stages instead of just 1. Hurricane's accuracy will be lowered, similarly to Thunder. Harvest will never fail to restore a berry. If heavy rain, extremely harsh sunlight, or strong winds are present, Sunny Day will fail. I actually have to read this from the beginning, don't I? Okay, let's go back up to Gen 2. When this move is used, the sunlight will brighten the field. This effect lasts for 5 turns, during which Pokemon cannot be frozen. This does not affect an already frozen Pokemon. It clears any other type of weather and is usable even when it's already sunny. While Sunny Day is in effect, the base power of Fire-type moves will be increased by 50%. The base power of Water-type moves will be decreased by 50%. In addition, the moves Synthesis, Morning Sun, and Moonlight will recover twice as much HP under these conditions. Solar Beam does not require a turn to charge, and the accuracy of Thunder is lowered to 50%. Okay, not what I expected, but that's a lot of stuff. Alden says, no, that is grassy terrain. Alright, hold on. I might be looking at the wrong thing here. Grassy terrain. Non-damaging grass-type move introduced in Gen 6. Effects. Creates a terrain that envelops the field and replaces the background environment near the terrain that is already in effect. It will fade after 5 turns. It has the following effect on Pokemon that are on the ground and not in a semi-invulnerable turn of a move. It boosts the power of grass-type moves used by affected Pokemon by 50%, regardless of whether the target of the move is affected by grassy terrain. At the end of each turn, it restores the HP of each affected Pokemon by 1/16 of its maximum HP. It's a weird number. It causes floral healing to restore up to... Is that 2/3? I can't read that. It's too small. Of the maximum HP instead of 1/2. Okay, that makes sense. The power of Bulldoze, Earthquake, and Magnitude is halved against the affected targets. Nature Power becomes Energy Ball. Secret Power uses the animation of Vine Whip and has a 30% chance of causing the target to sleep. Speaking of sleep, I feel like I slept on grassy terrain. And Camouflage causes the user to become a grass type. Okay, there we go. So yeah, that's the one that I was looking at. Grassy terrain is the one that heals. But again, that's in addition to a whole bunch of other things. Well, I think we can still give our grass types fast healing. And then if you use grassy terrain, that's even more healing, which means whereas rock types are just going to be a tank, where they're going to have a damage reduction and they'll just sit there and take everything you throw at them, grass types could end up being a heal tank, where all the damage that you do to them, they just seem to regenerate from. Could be weird, but I like it. Jeffrey Huntsman's in the chat. Hello, Jeffrey. It's good to see you. Okay, grass types. Let's get this down. Grass types are going to get fast healing equal to their level divided by 5. Alright, so that means at level 5 they will get 1 point of fast healing. At level 100 it will be 20 points of fast healing, in addition to whatever other moves they might have, which means that if you have grassy terrain, oh boy, that's 20 HP every turn, plus, it says 1/16. I just really hate that fraction. Like, you have no idea. I really hate it. I may... My initial reaction is to up it to 1/10, but that could be significant because that could be literally 100 hit points per turn. I could make it 1/20th, which basically take 1/10, divide it in half, and there you go. I don't know. We'll cover that when we get into moves. And we're not going to go through every move, as we already established there's like 700 different moves, but we will have to go over some general things for moves. So we'll do that then. Okay, but grass types are going to get fast healing. And I think that's appropriate. Okay. Electric types are going to deal electric damage with their attacks. That means that if Pikachu bites you, Pikachu is dealing electric damage. Seems to make sense. I didn't watch a lot of Pokemon, but I saw what happens every time Ash touches Pikachu. So, Psychic. What the hell do we do with Psychics? Now, I do seem to recall, if I scroll up in the chat, I believe it was from Blizzard. Yes, there it is. Psychic types should have telepathy. Okay. I agree with that to a point. The problem with that is, what does it actually benefit you? Psychic types are telepathic. Okay. Great. Why? That means that you can communicate telepathically with your Pokemon. Fair, I guess. On the other sheet, in the actual Pokemon grid conversion, I said that Psychics should get Blind Sight because they are using their psychic abilities. And Alden also says Telepathy is a Pokemon ability that exists, though. Does it? Okay, I want to see that then. Telepathy. It's an ability. Okay, what does it do? In battle, Telepathy avoids damaging moves used by its allies. This includes attacks with multiple targets, such as Discharge. Attacks exclusively targeting an ally with telepathy, such as Thunderbolt, and attacks that could potentially heal an ally with telepathy, such as Pollen Puff and Present. However, it is unprotected from ally status moves, such as Teeter Dance and Confuse Ray. Okay. Well, we can't just have straight-up telepathy then, because that's covered by this. But the idea that your Pokemon can telepathically communicate with you, I think, is worth investigating. And in that vein, what if we were able to treat them like a familiar? Let's investigate this, okay? Just a little bit. We're going to go back to Wizard because Wizards can get familiars. Arcane Bond. It's going to come as either an object or a creature. And we're going to look at familiars. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, or the fantasy thing, familiars are basically small animals that you have a particular connection with. No, wizards are not furries. Not that kind of connection. Okay, some wizards are furries, but that's totally different. No, familiars are basically something that you have bonded to your soul. And as such, familiars both grant you bonuses that you can see here, and they also grant you a whole bunch of other abilities that you might not otherwise have. And down here is where we're going to look at it. So, familiars, as they level up with you, are going to give you a whole bunch of stuff. So, for example, alertness. At level 1, you are going to get alertness, improved evasion, share spells, and empathic link. What does all that mean? What does all that do? Alertness is just that. You gain the alertness feat, which basically means you can't be surprised. You still can technically be surprised, but it's a +2 on perception checks and sense motive checks. If you have 10 or more, it increases to +4. But still, it's harder for you to be surprised. Improved evasion, same thing. When subjected to an attack that normally gets a reflex saving throw, for half damage, the familiar takes no damage if it makes a successful saving throw. Sharing spells. A wizard may cast any spell with a target of you on their familiar. The example would be like Mage Armor. You gain a +4 armor class for a period of like 8 hours. Well, you don't need to actually have your or touch your familiar to do it. You can simply cast the spell on your familiar, period. And empathic link, and this is what we really want to get into. The master has an empathic link with their familiar to a 1-mile distance. The master can communicate with the familiar, but cannot see things through its eyes because of the link's limited nature. Only general emotions can be shared. The master has the same connection to an item or place that his familiar does, which means if we're doing something like teleport, if your familiar is there, you can teleport there as if it were familiar. But that's not exactly what I want to get into, because that is just an empathic link. You know where it is and you can communicate. That's fine and all, but is it really worth our time? No, instead, I want to come down here to Scry on Familiar. The masters of 13th level or higher, they may scry on their familiar as if casting the scrying spell once per day. That's not the same, though. What I think that I would like to see is something more along the lines of share senses. And I don't know that anybody really gets that. Because I think that it would be nice if, for example, you could actually see through the eyes of your Psychic-type Pokemon. See what they see, hear what they hear, and basically have an additional set of eyes. This is not unheard of. I know, I don't want to be here, actually. We're going to go back to classes. I don't want to be under Wizard. I want to be under Summoner. Because if the Familiar doesn't have what I'm looking for, Eidolons do. Eidolon, here we go. Where's all the rules for Eidolons? Here we go. Full details. So Eidolons are similar to a Familiar in that you summon them, except they don't stay. They will go away as soon as you stop concentrating on them, essentially. But what we want here... Actually, maybe it's not here. There's share spells. No. Let me come back up here and look at these. Okay. Cantrips, Eidolon, Lifelink, Monster, Bond Senses. Okay. Bond Senses. Starting at the 2nd level, a summoner can, as a standard action, share the senses of their Eidolon. Hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, everything that the Eidolon does. They can use this ability a number of rounds per day equal to their summoner level. There is no range to this effect, but the Eidolon of the summoner must be on the same plane. The summoner can end this effect as a free action. Okay, I think that's where we should be going with this. Blizzard Star says, or have basic telekinesis. They can be seen moving people and objects around in the anime. This is true, but I believe that telekinesis is a move. I'm almost certain it is. Telekinesis. It is a move. It is a Psychic-type move introduced in Gen 5. It raises the target into the air for 3 turns. This makes all moves used against the target, with the exception of one-hit knockout moves. Bypass accuracy checks to always hit, unless the target is in a semi-invulnerable turn, such as dig or fly. In addition, the target will be immune to ground-type moves and ungrounded. So, yeah, there you go. Telekinesis already in there, although I do see what you mean. Giving them, like, general telekinesis could be cool. The problem with that is I don't know how I would do it. Although I do like the idea. I do like it. Telekinesis is a terrifically fun spell. Telekinesis. There we go. So with telekinesis, this is a level 5 wizard spell, so you're pretty decent level by the time you get it. You can move an object or creatures by concentrating on them depending on the version selected. It can be either gentle, a sustained force, or perform a variety of combat maneuvers, or exert a single, short, violent thrust. So the duration is concentration, up to 1 round per level. The range is long, and let's see, the sustained force. So it can move an object weighing no more than 25 pounds per caster level. At level 20, that is like 500 pounds. And I mean, if I based it on the Pokemon's level instead of a caster level, that means that'd be 25 pounds times 100, that'd be 2,500 pounds. Which you might need to actually lift some Pokemon, but I don't think I'm going to go into that. I think that this is one we need to just leave alone. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do this one. I mean, I like it, but I think it'd be a bit too much. I'm going to go back to the sharing senses. So, bond senses lets you see, hear, see, smell, taste, touch, everything that the Eidolon does. You can use this ability a number of rounds per day equal to the summoner level. There is no range to this effect, but the Eidolon is summoned must be on the same plane, and the summoner can end it as a free action. I like that. Let's see, Greater Aspect, Twin Eidolon, Grand Eidolon, yeah. The problem with this is, and there is a problem with this, I like it, but the problem comes into what does this do for you? And the only thing that I can think of is that this basically allows you to project yourself, like Avatar style, into whatever Pokemon you happen to have. So, I mean, raise your hand. I mean, I can't see your hand, but raise your hand anyway if you saw the movie Avatar. I think everybody saw the movie Avatar. In the movie, they lay down in the bed, they hook the thing up to their head, and it allows them to project their consciousness into an avatar body. In this case, the big blue cat people. And then, from there, they can simply do whatever they want while they are in their avatar body. This strikes me as being pretty much exactly the same thing. For starters, having an Eidolon does not mean that you have summoned this creature in that the GM gets control over. Eidolons are a construct of your design and under your control. You can literally march your Eidolon through fire and flames if you so choose to. But the point is that, essentially, while you are bonding your senses to your Eidolon, you can sit in a room, summon your Eidolon, and use bond senses to watch your Eidolon as it walks out of the room and goes to do whatever while you are still safe sitting in a chair. Now, this says that you can use it a number of rounds per day equal to your summoner level, so it's not going to be too terribly useful out of combat because a number of rounds per day equal to your level. At level 20, that's 2 minutes. It's not much. In terms of like scouting, it's not going to get you a whole lot, but it might be something. The point being that you would essentially be able to step into the body of your psychic type Pokemon, which could have some very interesting effects. I'm going to look at psychic types, because I know that there are a lot of psychic type Pokemon. Some of them I'm familiar with, some of them I'm not. But for example, Abracadabra and Alakazam. The interesting thing about these is, and one of the things that I want to note, is that Alakazam is a humanoid. Which is to say, it doesn't have full hands and feet, but it does have hands and feet. It has a hand with fingers. Which means that, technically speaking, it can do things. It can hold things. It can push buttons, turn knobs, pull levers. It can do a lot of things. Being able to simply kind of step into the body of your Alakazam could be very, very useful. As I said, you can stay back, bond your senses with your Alakazam, and walk in there as your Alakazam. You're essentially just kind of swapping bodies. Now, doing so does leave you vulnerable. It says here with bond senses, I think you have to close your eyes, maybe? No, actually it doesn't say you have to. It does not say that you have to. there was I must be thinking of a different ability, because there was one that said basically you can see through the eyes of something else, but you have to close your own, and you are essentially blind while doing it. Maybe that was a familiar for like a witch or something. I'm not sure. The point being that I think this works. Unless somebody's got a better idea. I'll take ideas. By the way, I do believe this also takes care of the whole telepathy thing. Because if you can bond your senses and you're already seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, everything else, I'm sure that you can also get the thoughts of your partner too. Which means that we get to cover the telepathy and the senses all in one thing. I think this is going to work. Okay, I'm going to do that then. It can always be changed later. But this is going to be bond senses. Let's see. PC Unicorn says, I'm now getting one, and I'm going to name it Crunk, just so I can make it pull levers. Okay, I guarantee if you do that, I will make sure that every lever is the wrong lever. Alright, so psychics are going to get bond senses. I think that's going to work out well for them, because if you have a psychic type, you can basically step into its shoes. And, I mean, I was looking at Alakazam, but there's a lot of others. Slowpoke, Drowsy, Hypno, Mewtwo, Mew, Espeon, whatever that thing is, unknown. Okay. Wobbuffet! One of my favorite Pokemon. Yes, I'm a Wobbuffet fan. But that's just because I think that Wobbuffets are overpowered. And I know you're like, what? Wait, Wobbuffet's overpowered? How is Wobbuffet possibly overpowered? I'll tell you how Wobbuffet is overpowered. Because Wobbuffet can take down any Pokemon. Okay? I want you to pull out like the biggest legendary Pokemon you can, like Rayquaza or I don't know what's the deer-looking Pokemon, like the god of all Pokemon. I forget. Wobbuffet can take down the god of Pokemon with one move. And it's down here somewhere. Hold on, I'll find it. Here we go. Destiny Bond. It is a non-damaging ghost-type move introduced in Generation 2. Destiny Bond is used until the other user moves. If the user faints as a direct result of an attack, the attacking Pokemon also faints. If the Pokemon takes another turn, such as those spent sleeping or flinching, the effect disappears. Yes, Arceus, that was it. And Peace Gunner says, Wobbuffet versus One Punch Man. Again, I introduce you to Destiny Bond. I don't care how serious the punch is. If Wobbuffet can Destiny Bond One Punch Man is going down. It is the singularly most powerful move in the entire series. It can take down anything. Everything. Nothing escapes Destiny Bond. And just like that, Wobbuffet became one of my favorite Pokemon. It's literally the I'm taking you down with me move. Let's see, what else do we got? There's this Deoxys thing, which looks kind of weird. Wait, this thing has 4 forms? Normal form, attack form, defense form, speed form. You're weird. I've never heard of you. What are you even from? It's a mythical Pokemon introduced in Gen 3. Wow, that came early. You're cool, though. I like you. No, now I want to be a player because I want to have one of those. Wait, I can make any character I want and give them whatever Pokemon I want. I'm getting one of those. Anyway, tons of psychic type Pokemon, and you could step into the shoes of any one of them. I may adjust the timing of it though, just because it seems to be a little... It's a little weak. Like, here's the thing. It says that you should be able to do this so many rounds per day. I think that psychic types, since it's the psychic type doing it, I think that so long as the psychic type is capable of using psychic abilities, you should be able to use the bond senses. This is not like a summoner connecting themselves to the Eidolon. It's more like the Eidolon connecting itself to the summoner. Let's see. Alden says that Destiny Bond can be learned by tons of Pokemon, though. Alright, fair. Wobbuffet's the first one I learned about it, though. So, I mean, it's first and best dressed for me. And Alden also says that Arceus is not even legendary. It's mythical. Don't care, can still take it down with Destiny Bond. Okay, so I'm getting off of the psychics. Psychics are done. I think it's just gonna be I'm gonna modify this. I'm gonna say it's gonna be at will. Alright, with that simple modification, we've now made it better. Alright. Dragon types. Oh boy, here we go. Dragon types are going to be one of those weird ones. But then again, Dark and Fairy are going to be weird too. Okay, Dragon types. One of the 18 types. Dragon type moves are super effective against Dragon type Pokemon. While Dragon type Pokemon are weak to Dragon, Fairy, and Ice type moves. Oh, wait. Alden says that Deoxys is also mythical. So by my rules, I can't use it. No, by my rules, you can't use it. I'm the GM. I can do whatever I want. I shouldn't say those things. Nobody's going to come and play my game now because it's going to be like, I'm not going to play a game with that person. They're going to be an asshole DM. I promise I'm not an asshole DM. Which is exactly what an asshole DM would say. Anyway, moving on. Dragons. So dragons are weak to Ice, Dragon, and Fairy. They're resistant to Fire, Water, Grass, and Electric. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember now. Dragons are like the answer to all the starters. They eventually got tired of people just relying on their starter too much, so they introduced Dragon type to punish you for whatever you picked in the beginning. It's like, oh, you got this starter Pokemon and you're still using it? Here's a Dragon type to step on its neck. Okay, additional effects. When Misty Terrain is in effect, the power of Dragon type moves is decreased by 50% if the target is grounded. But that's a terrain effect. That's not really anything specific to dragons in general. Okay, I have to really think about this because what is it about dragons that is going to be special? What do dragons get? And it has to be something good. Because otherwise, I don't know what else. The weird thing is, it's like, what makes dragons special in lore? Well, dragons are typically really strong. Well, okay, all of our Pokemon are really strong, and fighting types already get a bonus on their critical hit, so we can't do that. Dragons are also really, really tough. Okay, but we've already given a damage reduction to rock types, and we've already given additional armor to steel types. And they deserve it. So we're not going to do that. Dragons can usually fly, but we've also got flying types. And so we can't give that to them. dragons also tend to breathe fire. Or if we're talking about fantasy areas, then generally they can breathe any or different types of energy, but they generally have a breath attack of some kind. But is that something that I want to do? Because there's things like Flamethrower that already exist, and pretty much every dragon type already is going to learn Flamethrower. So I'm not going to do that either. And Alden says, actually, how many dragon types are even legal? That is a really good question, with actually a really simple answer, and the answer is almost all of them. As far as I know. See, here's the thing. I told you that when the game starts, you are not allowed to pick every starter must be a 3-form starter, and it cannot be legendary, pseudo-legendary, or 600 club. But that's your starter. I am not precluding the ability to get additional dragon-type Pokemon. Now, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by legal, because if there's some kind of legality where certain Pokemon have been removed from the canon, I don't know. I'm just saying that you cannot necessarily start with them. You could, of course, maybe catch them. For example, where is this guy? Here we go. Gibble, Gabite, and Garchomp. This guy is 100% 600 club. Okay, this is the demon of the demon of the Sinnoh region. You cannot start with this guy. Way too strong. But it is not going to be impossible to find yourself a Gibble. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, Alden says most dragon types are legendaries or in the 600 club, which is true. So you can catch them. You just cannot start with them. Which means that we can use basically every single type. And I mean, to be fair, when we're looking at, and I haven't done the map system yet. I haven't done the map system, but we're going to be able to create many different tiers of Pokemon. So, for example, and I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do this very simply. Let's say that I wanted to make an area like how we did the mana in the Magic the Gathering module, where we would put down mana values for each type. We can do something similar here. When we have a terrain, we will be able to assign that terrain different types. Like, for example, every single one of these types needs to have some kind of terrain to it. Like, for grass types are obviously going to love plains. Okay, plains, grasslands, things like that. Because of that, grass types are going to be great there. Now, what is grass strong against? Grass is strong against water types. So if we're in a grasslands, we're going to see lots of grass types. We're probably not going to see nearly as many water types. Naturally. Because it's just not going to be there. At the same time, fire types might be also very rare in a grasslands, but that would be bad for the grasslands in general. So we'll be able to do that. Additionally, when I'm rolling, to see what kind of Pokemon there is, remember that we have different stages of Pokemon. We have 3-stage Pokemon, 2-stage Pokemon, and 1-stage Pokemon. I'm going to show you a trick that I use so very often. And it's called a weighted D6 roll. Why is it called a weighted D6 roll? Because I can use a single D6 to weight multiple different rolls. obviously a D6 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Now, the reason that I do this is, for example, if I wanted to look at a town blacksmith and say, well, what kind of weapons does a blacksmith have? Okay? The weapon blacksmith, I can roll on a weighted table to say, come on, mouse. There we go. I can say on the table, I can roll 1d6, 1d3 will be simple weapons. 4, 5 is going to be martial weapons, and 6 will be exotic weapons. This way, there is a 50% chance that you get simple weapons, a 33% chance that you get martial weapons, and only a 16.5% chance that you get exotic weapons. The same thing can also be true of Pokemon up here. You're probably not going to come across eggs. You might, maybe, but probably not. Which means that we're just looking at stages of Pokemon. If we were in an area that had Dragon-type Pokemon, and I roll on the list of Pokemon to say, oh, look at that, it's going to be the Gible line. I can say that Gible would be a 1 through 3, Gabite would be a 4, 5, and an actual, like, fully evolved Garchomp would be a 6. And so that's super easy. But it also works with other things. Like, here we go. Dratini and Dragonair. 2-stage Pokemon. Very simple. 1 through 3, Dratini. Or 4, 5, 6, Dragonair. Or if I wanted to do it differently, 1 through 4, Dratini. 5, 6, Dragonair. Which is probably the better way to go for it anyway. And of course, if it's a 1-stage Pokemon, I don't need to roll at all. I just put it in there. And so I can use weighted rolls to do that. So when it comes to going into an area, we can look at what the environment is, what Pokemon would even live there, and then from there determine what levels they are and what stage that they might be. And this is the same system that I use for pretty much all of my games, and it works really, really well. And Blizzard Star says, Dragonite? Dratini is a 3, is it? Dratini evolves into Dragonair at level 30, and Dragonite at level 55. Oh, I had no idea. What even is that? Oh, that thing. Wait, that thing turned... You get that from a Dratini? Somebody needs to lay off the cupcakes. Okay, well, I stand corrected. I thought it was only a 2-tier because I only saw the 2 of them there. Anyway, you get the idea. So, no, dragon types will absolutely be catchable. We can totally do that. You just can't start with them. Unless, of course, there is a dragon type that is 3-phase that is not in the 600 club. Which I'm sure there is. Wait, Dratini is a pseudo-legendary? Okay, if you want to start with a dragon type, you may be in trouble because I don't know if there are any that are going to be startable. I'm gonna look at something. Base stats. We looked at this before. Base stats as of their total. Okay. This unfortunately, though, does not list their types. What is the weakest dragon type that we can find? No. I don't know Pokemon well enough to know if the Pokemon that I'm looking at are... No, wait, hold on. Applin. You're a dragon type, aren't you? I'm almost certain you're a dragon type. Yeah, it's a grass dragon type. Okay, are you part of the 600 club? So you are number 840. Let's sort by number again. And we're going to go way down to 840. 500s, 600s, 700s. Oh, I went too far. 840, 840, 40. Come on, where you at? There it is. Yeah, there we go. Applin. Applin has base stats of 260. Flapple is 485. And Appleton is, again, 485. There you go. Okay. There you go. That's perfect. So, it is Dragon type, but it's not part of the 600 Club. However, people are telling me Applin can evolve into 3 different Pokemon. No, that's exactly what we're looking for, though, right? Applin, Flapple, and Appleton. Your starter has to be a 3-stage Pokemon. And these are all the same Pokemon. I mean, am I missing something here? I feel like I'm missing something here. What am I missing? Because I'm almost positive this is fitting all of my criteria. I mean, am I wrong? I think I'm not wrong on this one. I think we've nailed it. There's your dragon type starter. Wait, it has 3 possible options. What do you mean it has 3 possible options? Okay. Okay. It evolves into Flapple when exposed to a tart apple, Appleton when exposed to a sweet apple, or Diplin. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, wait. Okay. No, I see. Never mind. It doesn't... Yeah, okay, I see. You say it's like Eevee, and I get it now. Instead of feeding it rocks, you're feeding it apples, and it basically spectrums. Okay. Alden says there's one that qualifies, and that is Haxorus. I know that Pokemon. But I don't know what number. Haxorus, here we go. So, right, it starts as an Axew, then turns into a Fracture, and then Haxorus. Are you like pure Dragon type? Yeah, you are actually pure Dragon type. And you're not part of the 600 Club. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's your Dragon starter, if you wanted a Dragon starter. I'm going to go into reasons why you are probably not going to want a Dragon starter later on, but for right now, if you wanted one, that's it. Okay, so it can be done. You can start with a dragon if you want, and if you wanted to catch more dragons, you can. Also, I knew that I missed something up there. PC Morrison is a bit behind now because just parking, but check the Tabletop channel in Discord. There is a Wobble Fett comic. I will absolutely look at that later because I love me some Wobble Fetts. Okay, but we still gotta find out what we're gonna do for dragons. So we can't give them flying, we can't give them armor, we can't give them a power boost because that would just be unfair. Their power is based on their attack stat. If you want them to have greater power, put more points into their attack stat. That's all I can say. Okay, what are we gonna do for them then? There is nothing that really defines a dragon. Because dragon types, like I said in the beginning, were only, it seems, only introduced into the game just to punish starters. Alden says, suggested an intimidation effect earlier. That is not the worst idea. That is not the worst idea. Hold on. Let's play through that. Let's play through that. Where's my bestiary? So, dragons in Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder come with an ability. Universal Monster Rules. We're looking for F. D, E, F. Here we go. Well, there's fast healing. We already covered that with the grass types, but here's our rules for fast healing. Fast Swallow, Fear, Fear Cone, Ferocity, Flight, Formian, Frightful Presence. That's what we're looking for. Now, Frightful Presence is not exclusive to dragons, but it is on pretty much every dragon. This special quality makes a creature's very presence unsettling to foes. Activating this ability is a free action that is usually part of an attack or charge. Opponents within range who witness the action may become frightened or shaken. The range is usually 30 feet, and the duration is usually 5d6 rounds. That is a bit much, but we can always tweak the numbers. This ability only affects opponents with fewer hit dice than the creature has. An opponent can resist the effects with a successful will save, the DC being 10 plus half of their racial hit dice, plus their charisma modifier. The exact DC is given in a creature's descriptive text. When an opponent succeeds on the saving throw, they are immune to the same creature's Frightful Presence for 24 hours. On a failed save, the opponent is shaken or panicked if it has 4 hit dice or fewer. Frightful Presence is a mind-affecting fear effect. You know, I'm actually pretty good with that one. First off, it has a range, and the range says usually 30 feet. Since our Pokemon are not exactly that big, 30 feet is also not that big of a radius. I mean, let's pick a really good one. Let's go with Haxorus. Okay, we're going to use Haxorus as our example, since it's starter capable. Alright, it's the Axe Draw Pokemon. He's big. He's bad. He is 5'11". Haxorus would not make it through most Tinder profiles. So he's medium size. And a 30-foot range? Okay, it's a 30-foot radius. It's big, don't get me wrong. That's 13 squares in diameter. But otherwise, it's not huge. It also, going back to the universal rules, only affects opponents with fewer hit dice than the creature has. So let's evaluate that. It only affects opponents with fewer hit dice. So we're talking about anything that is essentially just a lower level. Now, let's keep in mind that every Pokemon has 100 levels. And we have that over here. Okay? Here's our XP chart. 100 levels. You only get 20 levels, which means that it is pretty much guaranteed that every single dragon-type Pokemon that you come across, you would have to make a save versus Frightful Presence. This is actually much more thematic than I thought it was going to be. That's going to work. However, when it comes to Pokemon, the Pokemon could be higher, could be lower, which means that every single human And since this is going to be a Pokemon module, we're only going to have humans. We can't have elves and orcs and dwarves and things like that. Every single human is automatically going to find dragons terrifying. Unless, of course, they succeed the saving throw. And I think that's appropriate. I mean, does that sound good to you? It sounds good to me. The idea that if there is a dragon type, you're like, oh no, that's something that's going to be a problem. Your Pokemon, however, may be affected, may not be affected, because Pokemon, this is what they do. They're ready for it. Now, given that it's supposed to be 10 plus 1/2 of the frightful creature's racial hit dice, it means we probably have to do their level divided by 5, because otherwise, a level 100 dragon, that would be 10 plus half of their hit dice at level 100, that would be 50. 10 plus 50 plus their charisma modifier. That's too much. It's way too much. That's higher than a Tarrasque. I think this works. I think this really works. I think this was a fantastic idea, and I like it. Alden says, suggested it for a reason after all. Yes, you did. Good job. PC Card says, Fluttershy when meeting Spike the first time must roll a natural 20. I mean, there's multiple ways that we could have taken that. Perhaps Fluttershy just rolls natural 20s on every animal, or maybe Fluttershy just is missing that part of her brain that should be scared of dragons. I mean, let's not forget Spike. Just remember what Fluttershy did to the red dragon. Walked right up to it, okay? That is not normal. Okay? Anybody with a functioning cerebellum, okay? Anybody with gray matter would not have walked up to a red dragon. Fluttershy walked right up to it. You can't fix that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I am absolutely going to take the Frightful Presence. So, Frightful Presence. 30 feet. Will DC is going to be 10 plus 1/2 of their level divided by 5 plus charisma. So let's work these numbers out. That means that your dragon type, you know, let's say your little level 1 Axew? Yeah, Axew. So that means that your little level 1 Axew is going to have a Frightful Presence. It's 30 feet. The DC is going to be 10 plus half of nothing, which is nothing. And Pokemon by base stats. Which one was Charisma? Charisma is blue. 4. And since we're not penalizing our Pokemon, that means that your Axew will have no Charisma, which means that it's just going to be a DC 10 to overcome the Frightful Presence, which means that maybe you find it frightening, maybe you don't. The odds are actually in your favor because you'll have at least some kind of will save. So yeah, that works. I like it. That's gonna work well. Okay then. Dragon is done. Dragon was hard, but Dragon is done. Alright. Dark types. We have to get into dark types now. What is going to make dark type special? So before, I had said that dark types get dark vision. That was right up here. I said that like immediately. I hadn't even gone into this. I hadn't even thought about giving different things to the to different types, but I immediately said that dark types need to have dark vision because they live in the dark. And let's see. Blizzard Star says base 1 dragons are cute because their hatchlings are their young ones. I mean, sure. But I mean, I'm gonna clue you into something. Okay, I'm gonna clue you into something. We have Pokemon here that, because of the way these things work, or because of the way or all the calculations go. This Venusaur, when I was calculating HP, did I calculate HP? Where was it? Armor class, hit points, yeah. So our Venusaur right here has 1,008 hit points. Over here, this Aegislash that I put together has 787 hit points. This is much more than any human could possibly have. I calculated it. I don't remember if I wrote it down. Did I write it down over here? I did not write it down, but I calculated it. A barbarian, like the strongest barbarian that you could make, if they had maxed out rolls every single time, a maxed out barbarian with 20 in constitution and toughness is only getting like 350 hit points. Pokemon are going to be just ungodly, okay? Like, you would need the military to take down a Pokemon. Alright? Why do I bring that up? I'm going to duplicate this tab because I don't want to lose this. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's just go back to this Axew. You want to look at your dragon, your little dragon type here? Here's a preview. Okay, this is just a little preview of what's coming. Because I have to ask myself, how are we going to convert these numbers into, how are we going to convert these numbers into, like, dice? Now, my initial thought was that I could do like I've done with other things and divide these by 10, which means that Scratch would deal 1d4 damage, because that's how the power goes. It's a power 40 move. It's like the first thing you get. Literally, level 1, you get Leer and Scratch, okay? However, that means that this little Pokemon right here is going to get 1d4 hit points at level 1. So if you had a couple of these Pokemon, they can sit there and they can scratch at each other, and after a few scratches, one of them's going to fall down. That's perfect, right? The problem with that is it doesn't scale. It does not scale. Because if Scratch does, 1d4 damage, well, what happens when it's a level, I don't know, what level do you evolve at? Level 38. Okay, so it evolves into that at level 38. That means that we've got 38 levels of 1d4. I'm just going to go ahead and give this thing the minimum. Okay, we're going to roll a 1 on every single die. At level 38, it has 38 hit points, and we are now chipping away at it with 1d4 scratches. But, let's be fair, because at level 38, it's going to have more attacks. At level 38, it'll have Dragon Pulse. If we were to divide this by 10, that means that it would do 8.5. Rounding down, of course, because we can't have a half a dice, it's doing 1d8 damage. That kind of makes sense. A little bit, sorta. But it also means that you could be hacking away at that thing for a long time. And I mean, assuming that you did maximum damage to its minimum hit points. That's 38 hit points divided by 8. Let me get my calculator out here. So 38 hit points minimum divided by the maximum damage, you could take it down in roughly 5 hits. That seems reasonable, doesn't it? I mean, that seems like right in line with a Pokemon game. However, what if it had maximum hit points? 38 levels times 4 is 152, and that's not even adding in things like Constitution. 152 hit points. If we divided that, not including their strength bonuses, by 8, that would be 19 hits. Exactly, to take down this little Stage 1 Pokemon. And that's assuming that every hit actually hits. That is going to be a very, very long combat. And combat is already long as it is. So making combat longer is not something that I'm interested in. So let's consider the following. What if, instead of that, we simply use the power as the size of the dice? Meaning that Scratch would do 1d40 damage. Now we're getting somewhere. Is it going to make Scratch insanely overpowered for a level 1 Pokemon? Yes, it will. However, we are also talking about Pokemon who the lava slug earlier. Something that vaporizes any kind of moisture on contact. We have Pokemon that can literally crush stone with their bare claws. Pokemon are already these godly beings that grace our mortal world. And so, letting them do 1d40 damage is kinda huge. But at the same time, it's also kind of appropriate. And I know that sounds weird, but here's the thing. Every single game that you start, as far as I know, and mind you, I've only played kind of 3 Pokemon games, 2 really, and then I played a pirated version of Leaf Green. Every single game starts out with you as this new player who wants to become a Pokemon master, walking out and then saying, well, you can't go out there, it's dangerous. Yeah, if you have a level 1 Pokemon that can do 1d40 damage, that's insanely dangerous. Okay, that is mauled by African wild dogs dangerous. Alright, that is that little Timmy went out into the tall grass and never came home dangerous. That is, if you're going to go anywhere, you had better have your own Pokemon with you. Dangerous. Which I think is kind of appropriate. It also means that, for a while, Pokemon battles are gonna be basically one-shots. It's going to come down to who's faster, who's more accurate, and who's more lucky. And I hate to bring in luck like that, but for a while it's going to be based on luck. If you have a level 1 Pokemon, it's going to come down to who's got the faster initiative and who's got the better rolls. So it's the best solution that I can find because once you get into the higher levels, as Alden said, how would something like Explosion work that does 1d300 damage? I want you to consider something. 1d300 damage. That is a ton of damage. That is a huge dice. Especially when you're talking about players who only have, like, maybe a few dozen hit points. That is so lethal, it is not even fair. And that's kind of the point. Number one, Explosion is a suicide move. If you use it, your Pokemon is fainting immediately. Secondly, though, Explosion is going to do up to 300 damage. Now, I don't remember exactly. Is it an auto feint for the other Pokemon? Explosion move. Let's see. It inflicts damage and causes the user to faint. Sturdy or held focus band does not prevent the user from fainting. Cannot be used. Okay, so it is not a guaranteed feint for the target. It's only a guaranteed feint for you. Which means that if you're using this on another Pokemon, it could absolutely be a game-ending move. But if you're using this against like a level 86 Pokemon, and you've got only like a level 50-something, what's it called? Electrode? I forget. Regardless, you can tell your Pokemon to use Explosion, and it might not actually stop the other one. At the same time, though, if you see one and it's going to explode on you, that's the kind of thing where you're just like, okay, run. Run far, run fast. And Alden says, I guess the explosion rolling damage of 1 is technically possible. It is. As a matter of fact, you could roll a 1, you could roll a 10. You could roll a really low number. And that's why we use dice. If you rolled a 1d300 and you rolled a 1, that is like the glanciest of glancing blows. As in, maybe you should have taken one more step forward? Maybe? Maybe even 2? Did you have to do it from the greatest possible range? Anyway, that's how that's going to work. At least that's how I'm thinking now. That's also part of the reason why I'm not giving any of the types any kind of, bonus power up, because I'm not going to make these things any stronger than they already are. It also means, and I have to get back to the reason why this came up in the first place. I had to remember it. I had to scroll up a little bit. Blizzard Stars said, base 1 dragons are cute because they're hatchlings or because they are young ones. Okay, that's true. But you also have to keep in mind that, let's say that you wander out of home, you got your red hood on, you got your basket, you're walking to Grandma's house, and she's over in Pewter Town. Yes, I just mixed Pokemon and Red Riding Hood. You're walking along, and you come across this guy. Okay? Look at that. Look at how cute he is. That's just a little Axew. Okay? He's just a little baby. He's a little baby that can do 40 points of damage. Okay, this is why you do not walk through the tall grass. You stick to the path. Because if you come across this guy in a dark copse of trees, you could die. So I like it. I think this absolutely works out. And it's not just that dragons have this frightful presence. This applies to anything. I mean, pretty much every single Pokemon is going to get the same version of this basic attack, just in different flavors. Sometimes they get Scratch, sometimes they get Tackle, whatever it happens to be, it's a Power 40 move, and it will kill you. So that's how that's going to work. Now, I am almost out of time again, and we still have not finished up all of these. Oh no! I cannot do this a third round. We may have to go a little bit late. Because I got to finish these last two. Okay, dark types. We got to get this done. Dark vision is the obvious one. However, I kind of feel like we should do more than that for dark types. Is there anything else that makes them special? Additional effects. If a target is under the effect of the move Miracle Eye, psychic type moves will deal times 1 damage to them. Otherwise, they would be immune to it. So there's that. As of Generation 7, Dark types are immune to opposing Pokemon's moves that gain priority due to the ability Prankster. This includes moves called by other moves such as Assist or Nature Power, but not moves indirectly caused by Instruct or After You. Okay, Alden, I know you brought this up. Let's take a look at it. Generation 7 onward. Dark-type Pokemon now immune. Okay, let's go back up to this one. Prankster increases the priority of status moves by 1. A move having its priority increased by Prankster does not cause it to be blocked by Quick Guard. Generation 6. Any status move used by a Pokemon with Prankster can now be blocked by Quick Guard. And Generation 7 onward, Dark-type Pokemon are now immune to opposing Pokemon's moves that gain priority due to Prankster, including moves called by moves that call other moves. Somebody had to write that sentence. Dark-type Pokemon can still bounce moves back with Magic Bounce or Magic Coat. Moves have increased priority due to Prankster, which are reflected by Magic Bounce or Magic Coat, can affect Dark-type Pokemon. Unless that Pokemon bounced the move. This is complicated. I hate this. I really, really hate this. Basically, I think it just makes status moves faster. Or it makes them move first, I guess. Kind of like Quick Attack. Quick Attack, I believe, is a priority move. It always goes first. Unless you're both using priority moves, and then it comes down to speed. So, if I understand this right, Prankster just makes all status moves priority. Quick. Alright, so now that we've established that, it always makes status moves quick. The additional effects is that Dark-type moves are immune to opposing Pokemon's moves that gain priority. So basically, if you have Prankster and you're up against a Dark-type, Prankster no longer is in effect. Okay, just to make things very simple because they have gone out of their way to overcomplicate this. Okay. It's a bad move. I mean, they're going to get it by default. They're going to get these by default. But we could do better than this. At least I think we can. I don't know. Giving them Dark Vision just kind of seems to be the way to go. It's kind of like I feel a little bit bad about Poison-type Pokemons, making them immune to poison. I kind of want to give them more, because they're poison types, but it's what makes sense. And so if poison types are immune to poison, dark types should just be immune to darkness, which is to say, Dark Vision. I think that's the way to go. There's not much else that they do. Alden did say that dark types are essentially the evil Pokemon, but we're not doing good and evil here. We're doing, you're a dark type, what do you get for being a dark type? I'm going to go ahead and just say that they have Dark Vision. And I'm going to give them Dark Vision 120 feet, just because I think they deserve to have, you know, all the Dark Vision. Now, what does this do? Here's something interesting. Like, I wonder, is there a dark type that is also psychic type? Oh, look at that. Inkay and Malamar are dark psychic types. Do you remember when we did the psychic types and we settled on bond senses? Which means that you can hear what your Pokemon hears, smell what your Pokemon smells, feel what your Pokemon feels, and see what your Pokemon sees. If you have an Inkay, and it has 120 feet of dark vision because it's a dark type, but it also has bond senses because it's a psychic type, this essentially means that you have 120 feet of dark vision. Because you can share its dark vision. And as anybody who's ever had to play a map in the dark will tell you, that is a huge advantage. It also means that basically no other Pokemon will gain or will benefit from concealment. Except for ghost types. Because, I mean, if you're fighting in the dark, your dark type is going to be plinking at them all night long, and everybody else is going to be struggling just to hit. It'll be a powerful combat ability, even if it is kind of boring. And Alden says, Prankster is even worse than that. If a Pokemon with Prankster uses Thunder Wave, the move just straight up fails on dark types. That's kind of funny, actually. Alright, we have one more. One more. Fairy types. What the hell are we going to do for fairy types? Here's the thing. Fairy types have the same problem that dragon types do. They have the same problem. Because dragon types were introduced basically just to punish starter Pokemon. If you are still using your grass, fire, water, or electric type from the beginning of the game, we have thrown in a dragon type just to make you suffer. The problem is that dragon types were really strong because of that. And so they introduced fairy types with one singular purpose: to destroy dragons. Now, of course, Blizzard Star says destroys dragons. Obviously, yes. Because it is a fairy type, every fairy type move will automatically do ×2 damage to dragon types. Unless it's like a dragon steel type. Point is that they already have a purpose, and that purpose is already kind of baked in. And Jeffrey says, fairy types. Yes, they have fairy types. Battle properties, Pokemon. Yeah, it doesn't even... Like, here is how absolutely niche they are. When we looked at dark types, there was a property or something down here that says additional effects. Fairy types don't even have that. There is literally nothing special about fairies, except that they kill dragons. Okay? If dragons were Superman, fairy types are kryptonite. They don't even have to do anything. Their entire purpose is just to exist. And that's a problem because that means that we have to figure out what's going to make them special. So let's go back to our bestiary here. Because we absolutely have Fae. And fairies, of course, are Fae. That's kind of where it comes from. So let's take a look at Fae and see what makes them special and see what we can take from them and add. So here's a Fae. It is a creature with supernatural abilities and connections to nature or some other force or place. Fae are usually human-shaped. They have the following features: a d6 hit dice, base attack bonus with slow progression, good reflex and will. They have skills. They possess the following traits unless otherwise noted: low light vision, proficient with simple weapons, proficient with whatever type of armor they have, and they eat, breathe, and sleep. There is literally nothing that is terribly special about Fae here. The thing that makes Fae different, Fae as like an individual being are not really that special. The thing that makes Fae special is their magic. Every Fae is magical, and I wonder if there's just like a straight up fairy. There's a fairy seer. So here we go. It's a CR7. You can just read that as a level 7. The figure below you looks fairly human. Her or his eyes are covered in a linen cloth, wears a simple robe of pure white. In his hands he holds a shallow marble bowl, which appears to be gazing. Despite his obvious blindness, the air around him seems to twist and ripple. This is a medium-sized Fae. It has blind sight, it has a perception, the aura of unraveled fate. But here's where it really gets interesting. Look at all of these spell-like abilities. This is what makes Faes stand out. Faes are magical, and they are not just a little magical, they are very, very magical. I mean, their very presence is magical. And that's before you get into the things that they can cast. Spell-like abilities constantly comprehend language, detect magic, and detect thoughts. 3 times a day, contact another plane, detect scrying, and use scrying, and then once a day, either legend, lore, or divination. And then, on top of that, it has other spells that it just knows. These cannot be taken away. These technically can if you can burn spells, which is really uncommon. Being a Fae inherently does not convey anything. Alden says that fairy types are typically represented as the light type or the magic type. So we can try working off that. The problem with that is, how do I give them something without making them overpowered? Like, if we lean into the fact that they are the magic type, what do? Do I give them some cantrips? No, I can't do that. Not that cantrips or orisons are super powerful. It's just that I can't give it to them because it would unbalance things. Fairies are nature spirits, though. I wonder if we can work with that. Maybe we can work with that. Let's take a look at druids. Druid is basically the closest you can get to a Fae without actually being born as a Fae. So what do we get? Nature Bond, Nature Sense, Orisons, and Wild Empathy. Let's take a look at what these are. Not going to look at spells because we can't give them spells. Not going to give them Orisons, not going to give them Nature Bond. Okay, this is similar to a Wizard's Familiar. The bond can take one of 2 forms. At first, a close tie with a natural world, giving them one of the following cleric domains, which is just spells again. Or they can have an animal companion, which I'm not giving Pokemon an animal companion, so that's kind of out. Nature Sense, they get a +2 knowledge, nature, and survival checks. Wild Empathy, they can improve the ability to animals. No. Woodland Stride. At the 2nd level, druids may move through any sort of undergrowth, such as natural thorns, briars, overgrown areas, similar terrain, at normal speed without taking damage or suffering impairment. Basically, they no longer suffer from difficult terrain. That's possible. I could give them that. Again, it's kind of boring. But, and here's one that's interesting. While Woodland Stride is kind of boring, maybe, no, we can't do that. I was going to say, maybe we can allow it to avoid some of the effects like Sharp Rocks. But no, that's an actual move. It's a tactical move. I can't take that away. I wonder. What if we look at Ranger? I want to look at something. Favored terrain. So here's what Rangers get with favored terrain. At the 3rd level, they may choose a type of terrain from the Ranger list. When they're in their favorite terrain, they get a +2 bonus on initiative checks, knowledge, geography, perception, stealth, and survival skill checks while inside of that terrain. A ranger traveling through their favorite terrain normally leaves no trail and cannot be tracked, although they may leave a trail if they choose to. What if, and I'm just kind of spitballing here, what if we gave them a favored terrain? Let's consider that for a moment. So first off, all of these are pure fairy Pokemon. And as such, they don't have anything. But what if we looked at some of these that are like dual types and said, what could they do for like favorite terrain? So like we've got a fairy flying type. I don't know if there is anything for flying. Let's see. Our favorite terrains are cold, desert, forest, jungle, mountain, plains, swamp, underground, urban, and water. Sky is not a favored terrain, but we could add it. We could absolutely add sky as a favored terrain. So whenever your Pokemon is in the air, it gains bonuses on all of those things. What else do we have? Steel, fairy steel type. Well, steel would be, I guess, kind of urban. Makes sense. There is no such thing as natural steel. Steel is 100% fabricated. So if steel is urban, psychic, I have no idea what terrain psychic would be. Maybe planar? Could be planar. Fighting? That one's even harder. I have no idea what terrain fighting is. Ice is cold, obviously. Normal typing? I don't know. Alden says, so the favorite terrain would be tied to their secondary typing. That's my initial reaction. But here's the thing. Not every fairy type has a second. All of these up here have no secondary favored terrain, which means that we have to either give them one of 3 things. All terrains, no terrain, or choice of terrain. Maybe, if we go this way. I'm not a huge fan of this, but I'm kind of at a loss for what to do with fairy types. But anyway, ice would obviously be a cold terrain, and we've got that right here. So ice, glaciers, snow, tundra, etc. Poison. Poison actually would be a swamp. Swamps are always about, necrosis, rot, things like that. We have a favorite terrain here that is a swamp, so poison types could be tied to swamps. Water is obvious. Water is water. Dragon? I have no idea. I have no idea where a dragon would be. Grass is obviously going to be a plains. So, I mean, like right there, there's plains, like regular plains, not other plains. Electric? Again, I have no idea where electric would be. Rock would be mountain, easily, obviously. Fairy bug? Forest, I guess? Ghost? Maybe also swamp? I'm not sure. I mean, this is hard. Dark would be underground, easily. think that's most of them. Blizzard Star says urban for electric. Well, we're already using urban for steel, but you're not wrong. It could be done. It could be. I don't know. It's hard. Because fairy gives us just absolutely nothing. And I don't know. I don't know. I could agonize on this for another half an hour or so, but that would be bad. I tell you what I think I'm going to do. I think that we're actually going to take a break here. Because I'm already over time and I don't have a good solution for this. I'm going to take a break here and I'm going to put some real thought into this one. Because fairies are just... they have nothing going for them. There is nothing special to fairies except we kill dragons. It is their entire typing, it's their entire purpose. They're literally a one-trick pony. And I mean, yes, it does say that they are super effective versus dark and fighting. Sure, great, whatever. But literally, they're just here to kill dragons. And I mean, maybe I can tie that to something. Maybe I can make them counter the dragon's frightful presence somehow. But otherwise, I don't know what else to do. So we'll take a break here. I'll give it some thought. I'll write up some options. And when we get back here next time, I will present you some options and see what you in the chat think about it. Maybe you've got some ideas, some opinions on these things. I'll run it by you, and we'll decide together what we think is the best option to move forward. I have a couple ideas rolling around in my head. I'll get them down on paper so that we can go over them together. So, if you want to see what I can come up with, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into Pokemon or, tabletop games like Pathfinder, Starfinder, share it with them. Otherwise, though, if you just like me, you like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, of course. But if you don't leave a comment down below, I would suggest joining the Discord. We have a Discord. It's down there. There's a link. Join the Discord. Then, after you finish saying hi to everybody, come to the Behind the Screen channel. There, you can let me know what games you're interested in playing and what your availability is. Once I have enough people for a game, we can start that game. And I want to start more games. So, I look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to seeing you back here next week for more Pokemon. And until then, take care.